when the defendant provokes the incident, he loses the right to self-defense. You cannot claim self-defense against a danger you create. That's critical right here. If you're the one who is threatening others, you lose the right to claim self-defense. Then we have the chase that occurs after that. And we have taken that drone video and we have slowed down portions of that chase for you. So what we have right here on the screen, this is Exhibit 84, and this is the middle portion of that incident. And you can see Mr. Rosenbaum chasing after the defendant, throwing that plastic bag, and then the defendant turns and points the gun back at Mr. Rosenbaum. And this is the moment in time when Mr. Rosenbaum essentially does sort of a little hop with both of his hands in the air. And the defendant has testified. He saw at that moment that there was nothing in the defendant's hand, or in Mr. Rosenbaum's hands. He was unarmed. There's the defendant turning and pointing the gun. Mr. Rosenbaum leaps, his hands out to the air, and then watch here at the end. This is where the shooting occurs. Mr. Rosenbaum is not even within arm's reach when the first shot occurs. I'll play that again. The defendant is pointing the gun at Mr. Rosenbaum. Mr. Rosenbaum raises his arms off to the side. The defendant approaches these cars and slows down, and then turns and shoots Mr. Rosenbaum. Finally, I'm going to play you Exhibit 86. This shows you the final part of that, zoomed in and slowed down. Here's the defendant running in between those parked cars, slowing down, and you can see just how close, or rather how far away, Mr. Rosenbaum was when the defendant shot him. The defendant fires 4 shots in quick succession. And I'll come back to this in a moment, but you'll note during this entire sequence, it's the defendant who chooses where to go. He's the one who decides to run where he runs. And he slows down right as he gets to these parked cars. That's what allows Rosenbaum to get closer.
I'm going to cut it right there. This particular part of the trial is one of those beautiful scenes that illustrate why the prosecution is making the case for the defense. They're actually making the case for the defense in that moment. So everything that he put on Rittenhouse could arguably be put on Rosenbaum as well. And the reason is that the prosecution is behaving as though Rosenbaum is not an autonomous human being. That Rosenbaum did not pursue Rittenhouse relentlessly in this moment and before it. I leave it to you, my viewers, because there's a lot of ways you can interpret this information. First of all, Rosenbaum is in a attitude of attack and grab this person, his target. Rosenbaum is not taking into account the fact that he's putting himself in mortal danger because Rittenhouse threatened him here earlier with a show of force by turning around and pointing the gun at him, as you saw just there just a moment ago. At that moment, any sane person who sees this display of force, the gun pointed at him, will probably hide behind these cars here. Take cover. That's the right thing to do. But what do we see? We see Rosenbaum pauses for a moment and then continues pursuit. In fact, I would say that he didn't even pause. He just put his hands up and kept going. Okay? Now, Kyle Rittenhouse acts in defensive. Okay, the guy's not going to break off pursuit. Okay, defensive. Put him down before he can follow me more. That action of Rosenbaum is an act of aggression. He's chasing after Rittenhouse, despite multiple attempts by Rittenhouse to deter him, intimidation with the gun, and by fleeing. what this guy says doesn't have any grounding. And I would argue that he's argumenting the case from a standpoint of emotion, not logic, because he's behaving as though Rosenbaum didn't choose his own actions, that Rittenhouse is in complete control, that Rosenbaum has every right to chase him down the street, and there's nothing here that for that prosecution that constitutes an act of aggression on the account of Rosenbaum. They are simply trying to go after Kyle because it's easy to paint him as the villain with the deadly weapon. But actually, I would argue that if Kyle was not in control, he would have shot Rosenbaum right after here. That's where Rittenhouse should have shot him, according to if he was attacking from a place of emotion, let's say, and not logic, then the provocation that Rosenbaum caused right at this moment would cause Rittenhouse to fire back, because it's a projectile. He doesn't know what's in it. He can only feel it hit his body, if anything. Maybe it didn't hit his body at all. We don't know. From this camera angle and from this vantage point, we can't see too much. But we can see this. We can see that Kyle turns around and points the rifle, the AR-15, at Rosenbaum. And of course, this gesture means back off, stand down. Which, of course, is ignored. And here we go. This case will be remembered not only because it was a self-defense, a special self-defense trial, if you will, if they win. And I do hope that he wins, because it will reinterpret the law on what constitutes self-defense if he loses. The fact that the prosecution's case is so weak, I can't imagine any unbiased jury ruling against Rittenhouse on those counts. Perhaps on a lesser charge, yes. Did Rosenbaum, in your opinion, my viewers, people that watch this video, anybody, do you think that Rosenbaum acted in his own self-interest in this moment? Do you think that by pursuing relentlessly Kyle Rittenhouse that he behaved properly? The prosecution is pointing out that Kyle is the one that determined the chase. Yes, but it wouldn't be a chase at all if Rosenbaum had disengaged. So with that, I leave it to you. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. I really look forward to reading your comments.